Howdy folks, welcome back to the channel. This week is going to be a mismatch of a bunch of different things. Some Travelall stuff, some Scout stuff, trying to get some things done, what I can in the weather that we have right now. So let's get into it. In order to tune the Holly Sniper the correct way, you basically just need a PC laptop. There's no getting around that. I have not had a PC laptop in probably 10 years, but I was able to get one from work. They have a bunch of old laptops that they are basically e-cycling, and they were nice enough to give me this one. So got it back, wiped it, cleaned it, and loaded up the Holly software. And these are the basic tables and settings that are with the current tune in my truck. I have a lot of learning to do to figure this whole system out. There's all kinds of things in here. This goes way down the rabbit hole, and I don't know much about it yet. So I actually bought it's an online course that Levi at Old Off-Road had basically recommended, and I'm going to use that to help tune my truck, because right now I know it's way out of whack. Today is Friday. We got back last Sunday. This is the first day it's actually been sunny enough to get the truck out and dry it out completely. These are a pair of hubcaps I got at Nat's. They were painted red and then white and then black or something like that. It's just latex paint. I used Easy Off oven cleaner to get this stuff off, and with a little bit of scrubbing it came off super easy. One of the first things you're supposed to do when you get a new starter, or really anything, is to bench test it. So that's what I'm doing with this starter. This is a new starter I got from Rock Auto. It was a little bit more than the refurb units, but I figure I'd rather have a new one than chance a refurb model. This is really easy. All you got to do is just power it up and then jump the starting lead to the power, and you're in good shape. So you just have to make sure you got the right thing, and that's all I'm doing here. Let me just tell you, this starter was in the worst, absolute worst possible position it could have been in. What you're seeing at about 1/3 of the way across the screen going vertical is the axle. Then there's a whole bunch of tie rods and other stuff that are set with the suspension. The frame rail is going horizontally across the screen there. Right below that is the leaf spring, and then up in the upper right there you can see the two exhaust pipes that come out of the engine and basically go down the side. The starter is tucked up on top of all of these things in a completely inaccessible position. I'm under the engine looking up right now. That right there is a block off plate that I made for the gas, or the fuel pump. It was leaking. You can see here as I look at the bottom of the engine mount, it was leaking, oil. So I just fabricated something up and put it in really quick with some 2 new bolts. The starter is now in, so I'm going to give that a test in a minute. But first I'm going to test the old starter and just see for giggles how it looks. I'm looking at this downpipe and I think that might be a hole in my downpipe. Oh, cute. Here is the old starter. Let's give this thing a listen and I'll show you what I was up against here. Yeah, you can hear that. So that's pretty sick. That doesn't sound right. There's something going on in there, which was that really bad noise this thing would have whenever I would start up. So now we're going to give the new one a try, and we'll see what this one does. So I spent the last couple of hours, 3 hours or so, in the sweltering heat replacing the starter on the Travelall. I'm going to now bump the clutch and see if I can get this thing to basically bump free, just for the hell of it. The starter works, it's much better. Let's see what happens. Alright, so once again I've got to get back onto the truck. What was happening there was that I wasn't getting any juice to the starter at all, and I couldn't figure out what the hell I had done. So I got back into the truck, I checked the connections, I basically made sure that everything was connected the right way, jiggled the battery connections, and put the battery on the tender just to juice it back up again, figuring maybe it had run down for some strange reason. So, curveball number 74. This battery, which is only 2 years old, is hot to the touch. Like, hot, like it's been sitting out in the sun all day. I don't know what's going on with this thing. I think the battery is faulty, and it's only, January of 23. It may be past its warranty, but I don't know what's going on with that thing. Everything is wired back in. I had this thing running shortly. It ran good, and then I tried bumping it, and then it wouldn't start again. So we are still at the drawing board. But the new starter's in, and I can move on to the next bit of troubleshooting. I'm really getting tired of troubleshooting. I feel like at everything I solve, something else comes up, and I'm really getting tired of it. At this point, I started knocking out some of the to-do items on the Scout list. Looking at the exhaust leak in the Scout, I don't see anything. The usual culprit, which is that connection right there, looks fine on both sides. It's fine on the back here, and it's fine on the front. So clearly there's something else going on. I got to figure out what it is. And I'm looking at the rear drums on the Scout, and they look okay. There's plenty of meat left on them. They're pretty smooth. I think that's probably okay. I don't know much about brakes. I had driven about 10 miles in these things without realizing that the emergency brake was on. The emergency brake on this thing is very, shall we say, weak. I've always needed to fix it. I just haven't. But I was worried that I had smoked the brakes on this thing. Looks like there's plenty of meat left here. The insides of the drums look pretty good. So I'm just gonna pop these back on and call it good. Now I'm looking at the front brakes. These rotors are warped. I knew that already, but just looking at them right now, I can't move that. Like, it'll spin and then it'll stop. They are pretty well warped. So I wonder if I would be able to pull these off and have them turned, or if I should just buy a newer, better pair. I'm going to see if I can find somebody who can turn them first, and then I'll look into replacing them, because the braking on this right now is pretty sketch. It's really pretty wobbly. One thing I should mention is that the pads actually look like they have plenty of meat left on them. That pad looks good. So I think the pads are in decent shape. I think it's just the rotors are bad. And I can't see behind that part of the caliper there, but this one's pretty thick. So I pulled the passenger door off to check on the linkage here. And as it turns out, all 4 of the bolts are actually here on the linkage behind here for the window. I was having a really hard time when we were at Nats with the window binding up for reasons I couldn't figure out. So I just hit all the tracks with some lithium grease, and now it goes up really fast. So I think it just needed to be lubricated. I'm hoping that's all it is. Both of the retainer clips are in here. Sometimes that's the problem. One of these will come out and this thing will get off track or whatever. But other than that, door looks good. This is the original color of this truck, this gold poly, which is very interesting. They painted it purple for reasons I still don't understand. I don't know which one I dislike more, to be perfectly honest with you. I think I would take the gold over the purple, though. As much as that pains me to say. All right, battery's charged up. It's 13 volts right now on the multimeter. Let's see if this thing does that weird shorting thing it did the other night. So here we go. No, it is not. All right, so that's good sign number 1. All right, that's a good sound. Handheld is up and running. We are in neutral. Okay. That's doing that same thing again. What the hell? This is the battery from the Scout. So now we're going to try this and see if we can get any movement out of this. And we're going to troubleshoot whether or not this battery, the old battery, is bad. So what I did last time was I just touched this and it sparked. All right, no spark, so that's a good sign. Plenty of power. Yep. That battery's bad. Okay. So we know what the problem is there. I can fix that. It's going to be expensive, but I can fix that. So this battery, which is actually newer than that one, is bad. To bring that back, I think it's like an AutoZone deal. Okay. So that's good to know. All right. If you overcook a battery and let it boil for too long, you will destroy it. But at least that solves that problem, and I know it's not the wiring now. All right, new battery. Things seems happy. I'm still hearing a really big noise from the fuel pump over there, but she's running fine. So we're gonna see how the battery fares overnight, and if that gets hot or whatever, we'll see what happens. I'm actually gonna come out in about an hour and see if it's hot, leave it connected, but this is looking pretty good so far. So I did increase the idle a little bit, so now we are at 750. I might bring it back down just a little bit, actually. Basic idle. Yeah, heck gauge is working. All right. That's cute. That switch is funky. All right. Saturday morning, Hazel and I took a trip to the dump and ran some errands in the Scout, which was really nice, even though as the day wore on, it got hotter and hotter to the point where it was really, really miserable being outside. But an early morning ride in the Scout is always a good thing. Sounded really good. Temperature is at 174. It's a 180 thermostat, so I'm just going to wait a little bit longer and see, and then I'll shut her down, and I'm going to start trying to break the clutch free. But it sounds really good. Like, that's the best this truck has sounded in a long time. It smells bad, but it sounds good. Definitely getting heat in the hoses. Yep. All right, 178. Idle's still high, so clearly there's some more learning that needs to be done. And my brake lights want to stay on, which is interesting. I'll deal with that later. I gotta remember to turn them off. I ran the engine up for about 17 minutes. We are right around 180 degrees. That's, what is that, 171. 50, let's see what the, yeah, fuel neck is at like 197, so yeah, 188, 190. So the centers there are like 430. The outer ones are 315. If I do this side, yeah, 318, 356, and then the center 415. Yeah, so that's even on both sides, so I don't think we're missing any cylinders or anything. It all looks pretty even. So let's now try to see if we can break this thing loose. I have my foot on the brake. That looks like reverse, so let me put it in second. Doesn't seem to want to go anywhere. Also, I'm not getting a whole lot of... To have my daughter come out and push the pedal in, I just want to make sure I'm actually getting pedal on this thing. So I'm still not getting any transmission. That's kind of a bummer. All right. So that particular operation was not successful. I'm going to have to break down and call for a tow to get this thing to my transmission shop and have them figure it out. I don't know what's going on, and I just don't have the facilities here to figure it out. Plus, I don't know anything about transmissions, so time to hand it off to the professionals. So instead, I figured I would handle a bunch of the other things that are still sort of outstanding on the truck, including cleaning up this valance panel. When I last had left it, I had welded it in and put some mud on it, but it needed to be cleaned up. So I just sanded everything, got it ready for paint, and then just hit it with some rattle can red. The next thing I wanted to do was address the rear floor on the truck. I've been looking at this thing for 2 years now, and I wanted to get some wood to complete it. So I ran out to the Home Depot, got this sheet, and cut it to fit. This is 3/4 inch oak. I could go with some like super expensive marine grade plywood. There's some stuff called Cuzco or Cosco, something like that, which is not even wood. It's like some sort of weird polymer thing, but it's like $500 a sheet, and I just don't have that kind of cash. So I spent a little bit of extra money on this oak. I'm going to prime the other side of this thing really good, undercoat the whole thing, and then I'll install it. And then this side, I'm not sure yet. I'll probably paint it, but then I'm going to get the rubber. There's some really nice rubber that somebody found through, I think it's Amazon, for like $100. You can get a sheet that will just barely cover this. I think it's like, it might be like a 1/8 of an inch too narrow on each side or something. But that's probably what I'll do for this section back here. This is the underside of the original floor. You can see there's a whole mixture of different things here. There was undercoating, most of that is flaked off. There's this weird rubber stuff. This, I think, was like strips of rubber that they put on top of this thing because this is where the frame rails lay. So I'll have to figure out what I'm going to do for that. Maybe lay some foam or something over top of that. And then this was a piece of metal that was bolted in here that acts as a heat shield for, I think, the muffler. I pulled this off. I just ground it down and I just hit it with some rust stop so I can basically measure for that and install that. What I'm going to have to do for this piece of wood is measure out these holes and basically buy a really good bit and a countersink bit and countersink these bother washers, and I've got to find bolts that will fit in that floor and figure out which of the captive nuts will actually accept these bolts, because some of them are frozen, some of them are rusted. A lot of them came out pretty easy, but some of them are not. These are all of the handles and hardware that I got from the green truck, and I'm going to use these on this truck and standardize on everything. All these handles are in really good shape. They're not loose. They polished up really well. I hit them with a little bit of steel wool. They don't have pits and things like that. I think it's this one is the worst. That's pitted, but I think I've got others I can use. So I'm going to throw these on here now. So that's our window crank. I went out to the Ace Hardware and got a bunch of these springs, and I realized I actually needed more springs, but they didn't have them all, so I can only do one side. But these springs go on and basically make sure that the escutcheons here stay in place. And then I've got a whole bag of these little pins, which are super hard to find, and I'm going to basically put these in next. So if you notice, what I'm doing here is pushing the escutcheon towards the door, basically compressing it so I can expose the hole inside the crank handle, and basically using the needle nose pliers to set that little pin in through the hole that goes all the way through the entire unit. In a minute, I'm going to get my giant head in the way and you won't be able to see it, but this is sort of a tricky procedure. Sometimes it's easy. I had a really hard time with the actual door opener on this same door a little bit later on that I'm not going to show here. But basically you just feed that pin in, the pin slides in, and the escutcheon basically comes back out, and the whole thing sits in place, and you should be good to go. These new handles are in. I've got the black escutcheons here and here, and they're over on that door, which looks really nice. So it's coming together. Now, I'm going to put a piece of wire in between here and over there so that the seat will come forward the correct way. This is actually picture hanging wire, but it's meant for 50-pound pictures. It's steel wire. I'd used a different kind of wire before that just broke, so let's give this a shot now. New wire's in. This is working the way that it's supposed to, which is good, and it's much stronger than that last wire was. So, check. All right, let's get the seat back in. It's beginning to rain. That's going to do it for this week. As always, thanks for watching. If you like what you see, please subscribe, like, leave me a comment. I do try to respond as much as possible. And then I've got a store here with merch. You can see here, this is the Make Scouts $500 Again shirt. These are for sale. Anything you buy there goes right back into this truck, and I really appreciate it. And I will see you next week.